Do you feel used? Do you feel frustrated? Do you feel angry? Do you feel even slightly depressed because you're not true to yourself? Because you suffer from the disease to please? I've been there many a times. It's your fault. The reality is you need to take accountability and start setting boundaries. Hey Purpose Seekers, it's so great to see you back on my YouTube channel. I want to talk about this disease to please and go into it further. We're talking about the important components of what it is, why we suffer from the disease to please, and what you can do to change it, to get out of that disease to please. So let's start. Where does it originate from? I'm not going to go into the psychology of it because I can spend a lot of time going through your background, your experiential learning, but the reality is you're programmed in that way to seek validation from everybody else. So you land up compromising yourself, you land up doing everything because you want to be liked. Where the truth is, you need to be happy with yourself. You need to like yourself. You need to know exactly who you are. So that self-awareness is absolutely critical. Who is Sheree? What does she stand for? What does she like? What does she dislike? And you need to be very skillful in articulating that. Now, I've made a lot of mistakes along the way in articulating my boundaries, and I've learned, and I can share with you how to be more skillful in doing it. But as a starting point, you need to be absolutely in tune with what you want, who you are. And sometimes that's the hardest thing for us to decide is, who are you? What do you want? And I know I've had a couple examples. One particular teenager that kept on landing up herself in situations that she couldn't get herself out of, and she felt absolutely depressed and was using a lot of coping mechanisms, turning to alcohol, turning to everything else to make her feel better. And she was in a terrible state, starting to spiral away into a state of depression. And my first question to her was, who are you? That's a question I want to ask you. You need to answer yourself. Who are you? If you don't know who you are, you're going to be a leaf in the wind that's going to be blown to and fro, here, there, and everywhere. You want to be like an absolute firm, solid oak tree that knows exactly where they are. They stand absolutely firm, solid foundations, that when the winds come and shake and take you and the strong storms come, you are absolutely rock solid. And you won't be dysfunctional as a result of those tough times that you're going through. But it has to start off by saying, who am I? And that you can only do through a lot of soul searching. And that's the purpose you need to find out. You need to understand what's the core of your being. Who are you? Once you know who you are, you know what you will accept in your life and what you won't accept. Then you'll know what you want and what you don't want. Then you can answer the next question, what do you want? And that follows. If you know who you are, you'll know what you want. And then in relationships, you'll be in a situation where you will know and not need anybody external to validate that you're okay, that you're right in what you're wanting, or even that maybe it's not appropriate. You don't need anybody else's validation. And the reality is when you start setting boundaries, when you start determining who you are and what you want, people are not going to like it because they're so used to you pleasing them and doing whatever they want. You're going to find yourself grappling to try and set those boundaries, and the people who've benefited all this time from you being a people pleaser are the first ones that are going to complain and say, you've changed, you've become a terrible person. This is when you have to know that you've done nothing wrong, that you're okay, that you're entitled to have your opinion, that you're entitled to have your boundaries. And those people who will respect you and know who you are and what you stand for will respect your boundaries. And you will lose some people along the way. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, it will only solidify and help you find your purpose and your meaning and your true calling in this world. Once you know who you are, what you want, the next step is how do you set your boundaries? So the important thing is to be very, very skillful. And this is where the EQ comes in. So this is why I always talk of the EQ and the SQ. So the EQ needs to come in where you have to have empathy for the person. So you can't just go in there like, listen, I've now suddenly learned, I know who I am, what I want, because you're going to alienate people. And that's not what you want. You want to have a purposeful meaningful life. And that does entail having people around us. Whether we like it or not, we're not an island. We can't live on our own. We do need people. That's the way we actually designed, is we need relationships, but you need to cultivate relationships. So that's why I talk of the building blocks. If you don't have the EQ to empathize how people are, you won't be skillful in getting in touch with the SQ. You're going to think, this SQ just doesn't work. All right, so I spoke about EQ. So the first thing is about being smart about EQ is you have to have empathy for the person sitting opposite you in those relationships. And the way you have empathy is you put yourself in their shoes. So you try to imagine how they're feeling. You try to imagine what they're thinking. So you must understand you've been a people pleaser all the time. You've done everything to please this person, and you now want to come establish some boundaries, and it's going to require a lot of skill. And you want to do it in the kindest, generous way because you don't want to alienate people. So the way you do it is you go in and say, for instance, as an example, your friend always leaves her children for you to look after. And you're starting to get frustrated and you feel as though you're actually letting yourself down by saying yes, 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 people pleaser. You don't want to alienate her. You need to go to her and say to her, listen, I know you value our friendship. I know you value the fact that I'm here and I'm always here to support your children. And I really appreciate our friendship and I love your friendship. But here's the thing. I have some important stuff that I need to do this Saturday. I need to address some working issues, or I need to do whatever it is. But first acknowledge, have empathy on what they must be feeling. I know that you're desperate right now, that you're facing a bit of a situation, a tough spot, where you've got no one to look after your children. And most times I'd love to look after your children. But right now, this is where you come in. When you say, right now, I unfortunately cannot help you out. And the reality is, I've got something more pressing and more urgent that I need to do. As much as I'd love to help you, right now I cannot look after your children. You don't have to give them an explanation why. So just be careful that they don't go into a situation where they're starting to make you feel guilty and starting to say, oh, I've got nobody to help me, poor me, where I am. Because you know what happens? With us as people who've got the disease to please, we immediately want to go in and rescue them and show them, I want to alleviate them of their pain. But the truth is you're actually enabling them to continue to being a victim. So it is important for yourself that you set boundaries. But it's also important for the other people in your life. Because you know what the reality is that you are disabling them. You're not allowing them to be self-sufficient and to start becoming independent on themselves. Yes, there are times where somebody has a crisis. Yes, there are times where you can actually drop your own personal needs for somebody else. But I'm not talking about those isolated incidents. I'm talking about a day-to-day basis where people are continuously depleting you, wanting you to do what they want, and you have this absolute disease to continuously please. So if I just summarize everything again, so if I just summarize for you, wanting to please and help everybody else is actually a disease, especially when you start compromising yourself, especially when it starts impacting the way you feel, when it starts making you feel frustrated, angry, and start bringing out the person that you aren't, then you know you're really compromising yourself. And you're not being true to yourself. You're doing so at the expense of somebody else. So to summarize, what you need to do is, first of all, once again, know who you are, know what you want. Make sure you have absolute empathy. Understand, be very skillful in the way you discuss when you set your boundaries, but set your boundaries in a loving, calm way. And very important, though, is the tone and the manner in which you deliver it as well. And most importantly, you need to respect your own boundaries that you put in place. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, please leave your thoughts in the comments below and please make sure you subscribe to my channel. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you at my next video.